welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something kind of fascinating, maybe a bit weird. Why do we actually pay to be scared? I mean, fear, it's supposed to keep us safe, right? Is that primal alarm bell. Yet millions of us line up for horror movies, haunted houses, those crazy roller coasters.
Yeah, it's a fantastic paradox, isn't it? And it's not just like a simple quirk. There's some real psychology and even neuroscience behind it.
Okay.
So for this deep dive, we've looked at the research, brain chemistry, personality stuff, arousal theories to figure out why essentially your body kind of gets a kick out of being scared silly if it's in the right context.
The context is key. So
Yeah.
our mission today, decode that system. Why does that, a cold dread sometimes feel good? Let's start right at the beginning, the immediate feeling. What's the instant payoff when you get that jolt of fear, but you know you're safe?
Well, interestingly, the instant payoff isn't really the fear sensation itself. It's more about the bounce back, the rebound. And a key idea here is something called excitation transfer theory. Came out of work by Dolph Zillman back in the 70s.
Excitation transfer. Sounds like what it is.
Pretty much. The gist is the physical arousal from the scare your heart pounding, breathing faster, it doesn't just vanish instantly when the scary thing is gone.
It hangs around for a bit.
Exactly. It sticks around as this sort of residual excitement, energy, basically.
So if my heart's still racing because, I don't know, a clown jumped out, does that mean that leftover feeling could, latch on to something else? Maybe I suddenly think the terrible popcorn tastes amazing.
Maybe not the popcorn, but you're on the right track. That leftover excitement boosts whatever emotion comes next.
Okay.
How if you feel relief or happiness or, even connection with the person you're with, that feeling gets amplified because your body's already fired up.
Right.
The fear kind of primes the pump for a bigger hit of euphoria later. It hands off its energy.
That's a clever biological trick. And we know the chemicals involved in that reward part, right? Tell us about that cocktail.
Oh, yeah. So during the scare, it's the classic stress stuff. Adrenaline, cortisol, fight or flight, fully engaged.
Standard fear response.
Right. But the real magic, the bit we enjoy, happens milliseconds after your brain goes, okay, threat over, we're safe.
The few survive that moment.
Exactly. That stress reaction gets quickly followed by a rush of dopamine. That's your classic pleasure and reward chemical. Makes you feel good, satisfied.
Okay, dopamine makes sense.
Then you also get endorphins. They're like natural painkillers, mood elevators, and interestingly, oxytocin.
Wait, oxytocin, isn't that the bonding hormone, the cuddle chemical? Why would that show up after a fake zombie attack?
It seems weird, but it probably explains things like nervous laughter or why you instinctively grab the arm of the person next to you. It's partly about the relief, but also the shared aspect. You survived this intense thing together, so your body gives you a little bonding reward, strengthening that social connection. It turns terror into kind of team spirit.
So the real buzz isn't the fear, it's the switch. Going from oh no to okay.
Yeah.
But with all those bonus chemicals. Fear plus a big relief chaser.
You got it. And that ties straight into another concept, hedonic reversion.
Hedonic reversion. Okay, break that down.
It basically means flipping the value of an experience.
Yeah.
Something normally unpleasant, like terror, becomes pleasurable specifically because the context is safe.
Fear without real danger.
That's the absolute key. If the threat feels genuinely real, it's just trauma. But if your brain knows deep down this is a ride, this is a movie, then that safety net lets you enjoy the physiological storm. It reverses the feeling.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, we often hear this idea of catharsis, right? That watching scary movies helps us purge our own anxieties. But if the main benefit is this chemical high after the scare, is that catharsis idea still valid?
Yeah, that's a bit more complicated now. The traditional idea of purging negative emotions. Well, recent studies actually suggest watching really scary stuff can increase your anxiety in the short term, not reduce it.
Oh, so it doesn't really get it out of your system then?
Maybe not in the way we thought. So if it's not purging, what's the upside? Why keep doing it if it just makes you anxious?
Good question. What is the revised benefit?
It seems to be more about building a sense of mastery or confidence.
Mastery, how so?
You put yourself through this simulated ordeal, right? You endure the tension, the shocks, and you come out the other side thinking, okay, I handled that. I got through it.
Ah, like practice for the real world.
Exactly. It's like emotional strength training. You're
Yeah.
using this fictional fear as a safe space to test your limits, build resilience. You're flexing your coping muscles, essentially, so you're maybe a bit better prepared for actual stress.
Wow, reframing entertainment as like a emotional practice. That's interesting. Now, okay, not all scares are created equal, are they? The sources talk about different flavors of fear that hit us differently.
Oh, absolutely. They target different parts of our fear response,
Yeah.
very deliberately, usually.
Let's start with the classic, maybe the cheapest shot, the jump scare.
Yeah, the jump scare. It's all about sudden shock, loud noise, something leaping out. The goal is to completely bypass your thinking brain.
Straight to the panic button.
Pretty much. It hits the amygdala, the brain's alarm, instantly. Huge adrenaline spike, big physical jolt, pure reflex.
Does it last?
Usually not, because you see the threat, identify it quickly as fake. Ooh, it's just makeup. The fear spike is intense but really brief. It fades fast once you realize it's not real.
Okay. Then there's the second type, which personally I find way more effective, suspense. That slow buildup.
Ah, the dread. Yeah, that's about prolonged tension, like the camera holding on a dark corner,
Right.
the creepy music that just keeps swelling, or maybe sudden, unnerving silence.
Waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly, and that often causes more lasting distress than a jump scare. Why? Because the unknown keeps your system on high alert for longer. Your brain starts filling in the blanks, imagining the worst.
And our imagination is often scarier than anything they could show us.
Often, yeah. Which leads nicely into the third flavor, psychological horror, the stuff that really sticks with you.
Right. Not necessarily monsters jumping out, but unsettling ideas.
Precisely. It focuses more on, like, implicit threats, questioning sanity, maybe enemies you can't even see or understand. Abstract stuff.
The unseen being scarier.
Yeah, research backs that up. When you don't show the monster, our minds conjure something far worse, tailored to our own fears. This kind of horror works on a deeper mental level. It can lead to that lingering dread, maybe weird dreams. It's intellectual terror.
Okay, we've got the types of scares. Let's dive back into the brain itself. Trace that panic pathway when, say, a jump scare hits. It's incredibly fast, right?
Oh, unbelievably fast and very primitive. So your eyes or ears pick up that sudden threat signal. Instantly, it hits the amygdala.
The alarm center.
Yep. The amygdala basically yells, danger, to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus then tells the pituitary gland to get the stress hormones flowing.
And this is all happening before I've even consciously processed that was a zombie.
Way before. Split seconds. Next, the amygdala fires up the sympathetic nervous system. Think of it as the body's accelerator.
Go time.
Right. Signals sheet down to the adrenal glands, telling them to pump out epinephrine adrenaline into your bloodstream. Full mobilization.
And that's when we feel the physical rush. Heart hammering, breathing quickens. What about those weird sensory things like tunnel vision?
All part of the package. Blood gets shunted to your big muscles, ready to run or fight. Pupils dilate, let in more light to see the threat better. That can cause that feeling of tunnel vision where you only focus on what's right in front.
And goosebumps, cold sweats.
Adrenaline again. Stimulates the tiny muscles attached to your hair follicles, hence goosebumps. And triggers sweat glands, partly for cooling if you exert yourself.
Okay, but what about the things that seem totally illogical, like freezing on the spot or screaming instead of hiding?
That's the fascinating bit, the rational shutdown. While the amygdala is running this emergency protocol, it actually temporarily dampens activity in the prefrontal cortex.
The thinking, planning part of the brain.
Exactly. Your logic center gets sidelined for a moment. The automatic, primitive survival circuit takes complete control. That's why reactions can seem irrational afterwards because, well, they kind of were. Survival override.
Okay, so we peak in terror.
Yeah.
How does the brain then slam on the brakes and crucially make that transition towards feeling good? How do we come down?
The brain has built-in safety mechanisms. To stop the fear spiraling out of control and bring things back to balance, it releases things like endocannabinoids.
Like the compounds in cannabis.
Similar, yeah, they help calm the system down. But the really cool part, linking back to the pleasure thing, is that the amygdala has direct connections to the brain's reward circuits, the dopamine pathways.
Ah, so the fear center itself is linked to the pleasure center.
Directly linked. Which biologically confirms that thin line between terror and pleasure. The same system that ramps up the fear is involved in the rewarding feeling of relief and safety afterwards.
It really is baked into our wiring then. Okay, so Clearly, this whole intense experience isn't for everyone. Let's talk about who actually seeks out this stuff. Personality must play a big role.
A huge role. The main trait researchers talk about is sensation seeking.
Meaning people who just crave intensity.
Pretty much. People high in sensation seeking actively look for new, complex, intense experiences. They want that physiological arousal, that buzz, whether it's extreme sports or extreme horror movies.
Are they just, like, less sensitive to fear? Does it take more to scare them?
The research suggests yes, high sensation seekers seem to have a higher fear threshold. It takes more intense stimuli to get them going, they tolerate scary scenes better, and they often prefer the really extreme stuff. They're chasing that bigger dose of stimulation.
Okay. And on the flip side, the people who absolutely avoid horror.
Well, you have low sensation seekers, obviously. They just find that level of intense stimulation unpleasant, overwhelming, doesn't give them that rewarding kick afterwards.
Makes sense.
Also, highly sensitive individuals might just find it all too much. And then there's empathy.
How does empathy factor in?
Interestingly, horror fans aren't generally less empathetic, but people who score really high on empathy measures sometimes avoid graphic horror because witnessing suffering, even fictional suffering, is genuinely distressing for them. They feel it too strongly.
Ah, okay. You also mentioned another trait, openness, not just about thrill-seeking.
Right. People high in openness to experience, basically. Curious people might explore horror not necessarily for the adrenaline rush, but more out of, say, intellectual curiosity, interest in the unknown, the dark side of human nature, the bizarre. They're exploring ideas through fear.
So a few different paths lead to the haunted house then. Okay, this has been quite the journey from that initial jolt to the brain chemistry to who enjoys it. Let's try and pull it all together. What's the takeaway here?
I think the core idea is always that paradox of controlled fear. It's this sweet spot. You get the massive physiological excitement, the adrenaline, the whole survival response firing, but combined with the cognitive awareness of low real threat.
Safety is the magic ingredient.
Absolutely. As one psychotherapist put it, the pleasure is entirely in that controlled situation. Fear without real danger is the key to the fun. You get the rush without the risk.
And we shouldn't forget that social angle either.
Yeah.
Sharing the fear.
Definitely. That oxytocin release we talked about, it's a powerful bonding agent. Going through something scary together, a movie, an escape room, whatever, can forge really strong, positive memories and connections between people, turn stress into solidarity.
Yeah, you feel closer afterwards. And finally, this idea that it might actually be good for us in a way, that brain reset.
There's some evidence suggesting that, yeah, the improved mood, the feeling of calmness or reduced anxiety after the scare wears off, some compare it to a system reboot. By pushing the system into high gear and then letting it safely return to baseline, controlled fear might actually leave us feeling refreshed, invigorated, maybe even more resilient.
So here's a final thought to chew on. If our brains are wired to chemically reward us for getting through a fake threat, could deliberately seeking out controlled stress, whether it's physical like exercise or fictional like horror, actually be one of the best ways we have to train ourselves to build that emotional and psychological resilience we need for, well, just dealing with everyday life?
It's a compelling thought, isn't it? Something to consider.
Absolutely. That's something for you to think about until the next time we dive deep into the sources.